Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nastapраyesu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 3rd chapter, 7th verse. Chapter 3, titled The Lord's Pastime Out of Vrindavan. Tatra harsasta naradeva kanya kujena drushta harimarthavandam utthaya sadyo jagruhu praharsa vridanuraga prahitavaloke Tatra harsasta taranara kanya kujena drushta harimarthavandam Utthaya sadyo jagruhu praharsa vridanuraga prahitavaloke. Word by word meaning. Tatra, inside the house of Narakasura, Ahirtha kidnapped all those Naradeva Kanya, daughters of many kings, Kujena, by the demon, Drushta, by seeing, Harim, the Lord, Arthavandhum, the friend of the distress, Utthaya, at once got up. Sadai, then and there, Jagru, accepted, Praharsa, joyfully, Vriddha, shyness, Anuraga, attachment, Prahita Veloke, by eager glances. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There in the house of the demon, all the princes kidnapped by Narakasura at once became alert upon seeing the Lord, the friend of the distress. They looked upon him with eagerness, joy, and shyness, and offered to be his wives. Purport by His Divine Grace. Narakasura kidnapped many daughters of great kings and then kept them imprisoned in his palace. But when he was killed by the Lord and the Lord entered the house of the demon, all the princesses were enlivened with joy and offered to become his wives. Because Lord is the only friend of the distress. Unless the Lord accepted them, there would be no chance of their being married. Because the demon kidnapped them from their father's custody, and therefore no one would agree to marry them. According to Vedic society, girls are transferred from the custody of the father to the custody of the husband. Since these princesses had already been taken away from the custody of their fathers, it would have been difficult for them to have any husband other than the Lord Himself. Om Jnanaatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manohistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrayatam Sahagana Raghunathavitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So thank you so much for joining this Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya group in the morning and chanting in the pure Brahma Muhurta. and discussing this wonderful pastime of the Lord in the chapter titled The Lord's Pastime Out of Vrindavan. And here, the remembrance of the pastime which happened out of Vrindavan is being discussed. And this is where, Narakasura is just been killed by Krishna, and Lord Krishna is entering the house or the palace of Narakasura. So, yesterday we had a very detailed explanation of Narakasura as to how he appeared, from Bhumi Devi and Brahadev, and Narakasura's bad association with Vanasura. He was originally a nice person, but eventually he turned out to be a demon in terms of his actions. Then Narakasura stole the mother of Devatas, Aditi's earring, and then Indra request Krishna to help address Narakasura's wrath because he was creating mayhem everywhere. And then Krishna and his warrior wife Satyabhama fight Narakasura. It was so nicely explained yesterday. Krishna defeats Narakasura's general Mura, and therefore thereafter Krishna is called Murari, which is very commonly referred name of Krishna. And Krishna after defeating the general Mura, he defeats Narakasura, and Narakasura's death is celebrated as the victory of light over darkness on the second day of Diwali as Naraka Chaturdasi. And Krishna goes to Devaloka to return the earring to Aditi, and then Mother Satyabhama liked the Parijata flower in the heavenly kingdom, and Krishna uproots the Parijata tree and takes it back to Dwaraka. And then, surprisingly, the same Indra who requested Krishna to come and rescue them because of the Parijata tree being taken away by Krishna, Indra fights Krishna to prevent Krishna. So, as you can see, there is a bit of a flip-flop in terms of the allegiance, and the next verse, which is this verse, which is 3.3.7, is referring to this pastime where Krishna is entering the palace of Narakasura, which we are going to focus today, as to what happened at that time when Krishna, after defeating Narakasura, is entering the palace. And there Krishna found that there are 16,100 princesses who was kidnapped by Narakasura, is under captive in the place where Narakasura was staying. And these princesses were captured from different kings because Narakasura was very, very powerful. And this situation of these princesses who were under captive were very bad. Some of them, with sadness, they were not eating. They were shrunk. There was a lot of turmoil in their mind because in the past they were princesses. They were under the protection of their father, and now the past is bad because they were kidnapped by Narakasura, and the future, where in the Vedic times, when somebody is taken away from the protection of the father, nobody would marry them in the society. So they were worried about the future as well. So the past and future were bleak. And thinking about all of that, they were very sad. They were filled with tears. They were remorse. And they were basically Nitya Siddhas. They are basically personalities who had been yogis before. They were great devotees. They wanted to associate in their future life. So they were very pious personalities in the past, and now they're under captive, and Krishna enters. And when Krishna enters, these princesses, the 16,100 princesses who were under captive, who were in a very bad shape, they were enlivened with joy. They were very happy to see Krishna. And here, Krishna, who is actually Patta Pavana, and whenever there is a situation where we have, the decline and there is somebody who has fallen, Krishna comes and rescues them. And that is where the 16,100 princesses who were under captive were rescued by Krishna, and they offered themselves to Krishna in the form of their wives. And Krishna agreed because, as Prabhupada mentions, that if Krishna would not accept them as their wives, the future of these princesses are very bleak. Nobody would marry them. There will be a lot of challenges in their lives. And Krishna, with full of reciprocation, because they had strong desire to have Krishna, and they were, allowing themselves to be under the supervision of Krishna, Krishna agreed in reciprocation. And that is where our Acharyas mentions about this aspect of desire and how this desire translates to reciprocation, which is exactly the purpose of this discussion, as how is desire and reciprocation meaningful for devotees like us, like how the 16,100 prisoners were rescued and were made into wives by their sincere desire and reciprocation. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like rain, when rain drops, rain goes everywhere. Rain doesn't discriminate whether the rainwater has to go to a rock or to a fertile soil. The fertile soil accepts the rain in a very absorbing manner, and then because of that you grow so many nice things. But at the same time, a rock, when the rain touches them, they can't really recognize the beauty of the raindrops. That's the reason why the rocks can't accept the rain like how the fertile soil accepts the rain. So in order for and likewise, sun doesn't discriminate between one tree or other tree. It all depends on how you accept these prakriti. Likewise, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, He has kripa for everyone. He has mercy for everyone. But as we are entangled in our material lives, we are very forgetful about the Supreme. And that is where, when we start associating with someone, and then after associating with a devotee, then we start associating with the scriptures, we start associating with the names as we have been chanting, and then we finally realize that we need someone to really guide us, because we are in this darkness and no one is there to help us. Then when we seek some counseling, and then in the form of a guru, the guru sparks that element of desire in us to seek the truth, because we have forgotten. And that is why the guru ignites that element of Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. So once that ignition happens, then we have a desire. Desire is different from craving. Craving, asking, Lakshmi ji to give money is different from desire. Desire is an internal manifestation of love, not for mechanical and material benefits. So desire is very, very important, and that's exactly where the 16,100 prisoners, who were princesses, they had very strong desire, and when they saw Krishna in after killing of Narakasura, they were very enlivened with joy. So the desire has to be there, and the desire gets created once you associate, and then the question becomes, how is this desire different from a mechanical desire? So Prabhupada was very, very popular, late 60s and early 70s. Everybody wanted to have association with His Divine Grace. So there was an exchange where people were interested to have association with His Divine Grace. So at the same time, if a mosquito goes and sits on the hand of Prabhupada, is the mosquito truly associating with the level in which all, the personalities around that time who were having association with Prabhupada, taking the knowledge, taking the process, and absorbing it. There is a difference. So the association of a mosquito with a superior personality is different from how a sadhu or a exalted person interacts with a superior personality. So the absorption of that mercy or kripa, or however you would like to, or the radiance is very important. So unless we make ourselves receptible to that, we cannot experience the Supreme. So that's where Krishna in 4.11 Bhagavad Gita says, Ye yathamam prapadyante tam satate vajantiham mam bhartam tante manushya partha sarvasya. That means, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So accordingly is very important here. So with a desire, you really want to express that you want to be a friend of the Supreme. You want to be have that shantaras with the Supreme. You want to have the vatsilaras with the Supreme, or you want to have that awe and reverence, like as our divine grace has told us to deal with the Supreme with awe and reverence. So accordingly, Krishna reciprocates. So the desire and reciprocation is very, very critical in our Krishna consciousness. And that is where there was an ardent Ganesh devotee of in the Western India. His name was Ganapati Bhatta. He came to Jagannath Puri, and he wanted to see Lord Jagannath. He wanted to see Ganesh in Lord Jagannath. But at the time, Jagannath ji was giving darshan in his, nice, Chaturdha Murti form. So he got disappointed. So he went away. And then Lord comes into his mind in the form of a dream. And then he was asked, Lord says, in me, everything emanates. Ganesh emanates from me. You don't have to worry. You just have to go back. And when he comes back to the main temple, and on that day, Lord Jagannath was adorned with the Hathi Vesh or the Gajanan Vesh. And he had the darshan of Lord Jagannath in the form of Ganesh. So however you desire, however Lord reciprocates accordingly, however these prisoners, these princesses, these kidnapped princesses were desiring to have Krishna alongside them, Krishna reciprocated. And then there is another pastime, another sweet pastime, when there was a priest. His name was Mahatma Manohar Das. He is from the Ganga dynasty, and whose king was Mitravanudev. And once he saw this lotus, and this lotus, in the lotus he saw the face of Lord Jagannath. So he took this lotus to the main temple and asked the priest to offer. But the priest, they did not offer the lotus. And a couple of days passed. He was filled with remorse. And then on the third day, the lotus he got for the Supreme Lord Jagannath was totally crumpled. And Lord Jagannath saw the desire of Mahatma Manohar Das, and his darshan transcended into a total lotus-like darshan. And when the priest saw the lotus-like darshan, they realized that the lotus they took from this person 3 days back could be the cause of Lord's expression of that Vesha. And that's the reason why every time during the Vasanta Panchami time, February, March timeline, Lord Jagannath is adorned with Padma Vesh. And this Padma Vesh is very, very effulgent and very, very sweet. And this is nothing but an expression of reciprocation for the desire of a personality who came with the intent to see Lord Jagannath with this lotus. And Bali Maharaj, when he was sent into the Patal Lok with the third pace of Vamana Dev, Bali Maharaj wanted to have darshan of the Lord every day. He had that inherent desire. And what did Lord do? Lord reciprocated. He became the gatekeeper of Bali Maharaj. It's very difficult to understand the Lord, but at the same time, it is very simple to understand the Lord. The simple process of chanting the holy name is a basic way to understand the Lord. But in this world, we are not simple. We can't understand that the simplicity in understanding the Lord is a way to go. So we have different ways, we come up with different mantras, we come up with different sanskaras trying to understand God. To some degree, sanskaras are good, but understanding the Supreme in this age of Kali is through Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gati Anyatha. Because there is no other way, no other way, no other way. And once we understand the simple way, Lord can be a gatekeeper. Lord can give his darshan in any different ways because he is the Supreme. He has the right to express himself however he wants. But at the same time, the unfavorable persons cannot understand God because there is the element of doubt in the mind of everyone. So that's why when the rain falls, it doesn't discriminate. It's how we absorb the rain is important. How we absorb the sun is important. You can make solar panels, you can make embankments with canals to house the water and preciously use it, or you could choose to waste it. And that's the reason why Lord is there. We have an opportunity. And that's the reason why when there is hunger, you appreciate the food. When there is no hunger, you can't appreciate the food. So the hunger for the Supreme in this example has to be there. And the 16,100 prisoners were hungry for the Supreme. And Lord reciprocated. Jambavan in Treta Yuga had a desire to have a duel with Ram because he was seeing Ram. Ram was unleashing weapons like never before. So Jambavan was actually there are few personalities who continued from Treta Yuga to Dwapar Yuga. Hanuman is one, Jambavan is another, and there is some other. But in this context, Jambavan, seeing Ram, unleashing his weapons, seeing the power Ramji used to execute. Jambavan was a bear king, you all know. But Jambavan has an inner desire to have a duel with Ram. Ramji knew that Jambavan has this desire. Jambavan has this desire to fight Ram. He wants to experience that element of what it would be fight. He was seeing Ramji fighting with Ravan, and he had that inner desire. Like when you are a good batsman, you really want a good bowler to bowl at you, right? So likewise, Jambavan has this inherent desire to have a duel with Ram. And it couldn't be done in Treta Yuga. But in Dwapar Yuga, there was a, Shamantak Mani pastime, we'll not get into that. But there was a duel which happened between Jambavan and Krishna in a cave. And when this duel was happening, Jambavan realized that this person who I am fighting with, Krishna, who I am fighting with, is none other than the Ram. So the expression of desire is reciprocated beyond yugas, as you can see in this pastime. And all these bullet points can be made into a seminar or a class, because this is where Krishna understands the desire and expresses it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interaction with King Prataprudra. King Prataprudra was a material king. He was actually a person who was ruling, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very particular in not interacting with the illusory or the Mayavadis in that context. As he was holding a position, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't want to meet King Prataprudra. So King Prataprudra also had inherent doubt as to how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is doing kirtan, his body is filled with soil and mud because he's chanting the holy name and dancing. How can he be Krishna? So Jagannath came in the dream in the form of Lord Jagannath, had this the soiled darshan in his dream. And King Prataparudra from then on had that desire to surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not really align. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for him, he was not associating with, like a sannyasi. The sannyasis are not supposed to associate it with Mayavadis and, women and, so and so things. So King Prataparudra was not given the same kind of alignment from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to bless King Prataparudra, he blessed his King Prataparudra's son by giving a chadar from him. But still, King Prataparudra was very sad. What is the purpose of life if I can't surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And you have this beautiful pastime behind Jagannath temple. There is a garden called Jagannath Ballabh Garden. And you might have seen that wonderful picture in our temple where, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is resting after a tired Rath Yatra. And King Prataparudra is massaging his feet and he's singing, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj's special masterpiece, Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam. And when Prataparudra was singing, and later when he woke up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized the extent of desire King Prataparudra had, and he embraced King Prataparudra. And this is another fascinating pastime which can be discussed for a long. So, something to think about as to why the 16,100 prisoners were made into queens, and eventually Krishna had the prime 8 queens, and then Krishna eventually had 16,108 queens. So Prabhupada gives a very interesting point. At that time, if you are under the protection of your parent and you lose your custody and you do not go to your husband, nobody would marry them. So in this world, in this material world, we get a lot of questions. Why did Krishna have so many wives? What was the purpose? So there will be people who will come to you, what? I kind of appreciate how Lord Ram lived his life. He had one wife. And instead, Krishna has 16,108 wives. So the question becomes, if these 16,100 princesses were kidnapped by somebody and they're held as a hostage, would these people, without understanding the true pastime, would they understand the element of empathy Krishna had with this? The element of surrender these princesses had with, they will not have. So this marriage as an institution, when you see these advertisements with advertisements seeking, a girl who is tall, fair, handsome, having a job, and then you have this matrimonial for a boy who is returned, he is a 6-figure salary. And the same set of people who indulge in this kind of a marriage as a business instead of a beautiful institution, when they question the number of wives Krishna had, we have to think about it. We have to really recognize the element of the situation, how Narakasura kept them, and how Krishna saved these queens, these princesses. And then in this pastime, there's another thing to take away for me, and if possible, you can think about it. So Indra is requesting Krishna to come and help. And when there is, when Krishna and Satyabhama, they wanted to take the Parijat tree because Satyabhama liked the Parijat flower, he's fighting with Krishna. So the question is, should we trust the demigods? Because at one point of time, they will usher all the goodies, boons, and it's possible. But at some other time, when they're captivated under the different guna, tamaguna or rajaguna, who knows? They may fight back, they may take it away. But Krishna is Trigunatit. He is beyond the three gunas. So he's transcendental, he's Satchitanand, he's 100%. So for all of us as indirect, preachers in any form or shape, and we have to do it very nicely, of course, we have to think, can we trust the demigods? Because they can do anything at any point in time based on how we interact, because they are very much captivated by the gunas. So I think it's 7. I wanted to end here. So these queens, these princesses of Narakasura, was rescued by Krishna in this very interesting verse. And this remembrance we are doing as to why Krishna rescued them is very, very important, because we cannot understand this with the material mind. We just have to think about the context around why Krishna rescued them. So with that, I'd like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.